Thanks, folks. Thank you. Now, for our next panel, we're going to turn our attention to film, TV, and animation. But particularly, we talked a little about TV and film there, but we're going to look at how technology is reshaping what we watch, how it is made, and how it is distributed. So the big question, though, will tech help, or will it actually hurt those on the ground, especially those who've made a career in film, TV. So to discuss it, please welcome Oscar Sharp, who is a filmmaker and producer, Abhayanand Singh, co-founder and group chief executive of Vistas Media Group, and Devi Kolli, the chief executive of AI Solve. Thank you. Welcome. Nice to see you all.
Hello. Nice to meet you. Yeah, nice to meet you. Hello there.
Can I just ask if we might close the door as well? Thank you. Wonderful.
Always great to go on just after a movie star.
Yes.
Everyone's sticking around.
No pressure. No. Great act to follow. Talk to me first of all. I mean, there's a lot for us to talk about, and we have 20 minutes, so let's crack on. And maybe, Oscar, I want to start with you because we talked there, I said in the introduction about tech. One of the biggest issues in the SAG-AFTRA strike was around things like AI. Give me your assessment of what the concerns were, first of all, briefly, but then also how founded in reality were those concerns?
Ooh, wow, that is quite the question. So just for a bit of context, I made the first film written by artificial intelligence in 2016, rather before there were the transformer models, the sort of GPTs were really had come into existence. A year later in 2017, we made a follow-up with David Hasselhoff in it about a writer strike in the face of artificial intelligence, 6 years before it happened. So I've been sort of expecting and anticipating this for quite some time, and also I'm in that guild, so as well as with the SAG-AFTRA folks, I would go down and walk round and round Netflix, holding signs, having conversations with them about exactly what they were afraid of. So I think my first part of my answer to how well-founded they are and whether they're being really well understood would be well, that I had a little scheme that I didn't manage quite to pull off. I don't know if you've seen, but around the streets of LA, there are little robots that drive around carrying people their food.
Yep.
And I saw one of these, and I did a little post on Facebook, and I said, hey, do I know anyone who's a part of this company? And a friend of mine went, I'm an investor. And we started a conversation about having a fleet of them come down to outside Netflix with signs on their back protesting AI in order to get them to go around in a circle and protest robots, because as far as I'm concerned, the whole point of robots is that they do things that you don't want to. And I didn't particularly want to walk round and round in a circle in the blazing sun holding a sign saying, please pay me properly. Now, of course, there's an irony here, which is that those exact robots are also taking jobs away. The question ultimately does come down to if having a machine that can do something you can do, like, I don't know, interviewing people, for example, if that existing means that now you can't eat, if that existing that means that now not only can't you eat, but we're in a feedback loop of producing worse and worse stuff that's going into the world and affecting the way that people see themselves, and that, for example, the fourth film we made, we trained it on action movies, and one of our previous panelists was talking about, the messaging that is contained in sort of colonial storytelling. And when we turned on that machine, having just filled it with action movies and superhero screenplays, it was GPT-2, the early version of GPT-3. It just spat out 400 pages of white-hot misogyny. It was Batman in a cage of prostitutes. It was Superman beating up Lois Lane, making out with her, and then beating her up again. It was horrifying. And I actually persuaded the TV Lois Lane, what was her name, Terry Hatcher, to play the role, and then all the lawyers went, no! So we didn't do it. But it speaks to what's in there and what's in a feedback loop. So,
well, the feedback loop's really interesting, isn't it? Because AI in its current form will only give you more of what you've already put in.
Sort of the old garbage in, garbage out principle. That is a little bit, if I may, an oversimplification. It's often reproduced. But the thing is, even back when we're doing it, you just turn up what's called the temperature if you have a little bit more control. And it starts doing things it doesn't think that a human would do. And that's controllable for. So the idea that you're only going to get copies is really more of a commercial reality than it is a computational reality. That's what I'm understanding.
And Devi, do you see this as a tool that should be used and embraced by the industry, whilst and using it as exactly that, an add-on to what humans can do? Or is it about, frankly, humans just should retrain? If there's something that a computer can do well, this is about you finding another way to express yourself.
Well, as you know, I spent 18 years in the AI and immersive technology space, so I have a slightly different perspective to this.
Yep.
And
That's why you're here.
Yeah. The thing is, we humans, we've seen it time and again. We meant to evolve, and that's the fundamental of it. Change is daunting. Change is daunting to each and every one of us. But whether we like it or not, it's happening. And this whole AI is exactly that. Why is AI is there to enhance and augment our creative power, do exactly remove those mundane tasks and allow us to spend more of that freedom, the newfound freedom that we wouldn't have been able to find, to bring more of that creativity out of us.
So what does it, you know, if we talk about filmmaking or TV production, what are those kind of, those jobs that can be replaced, and where does the human element get better applied?
I think the many folds of jobs that could kind of be replaced straight away. All of us are taking. There's probably not many of us are here who haven't used ChatGPT to sort of enhance our scripts in some way or the other. That's a straightforward aspect. Yeah. But the point is the originality. What makes a human far more superior to any of these machines that we will coexisting now with is the fact that we have empathy.
Right.
The fact that we have empathy, we are the only superior beings that can actually experience feelings. That will continue to keep us on top of any of these bots that are coming in. So it's really about making sure we are embracing the change and we understand the value principle. People out there and one thing I definitely want to say is the creative industry, they must be open to adapting to this change. If they don't, they're going to get obsolete, and that's already happening now.
And I want to talk about XR technologies in just a minute as well. But I mean, I'm interested as well, Abhayanand, about how business is going to use this. Is it just about the creative end, or from a business point of view, is technology like AI shaping how you can make, create, distribute, sell? And the business functions of media, are they being changed by AI?
No, absolutely. You know, every time we've had a revolutionary technology, there's always been this debate in the initial years, which is the phase that we are in right now. But as days progress and months progress, I believe the moment AI gets too smart, we'll have regulators, right? Yeah. And at that stage,
but is it already too late by then?
I don't think so. I think we humans, you know, us a little smarter than them. We created them at the end of it. But coming back to your question, we think that there's many things that AI can do. You know, we right now only focus on the loss of jobs, you know, which obviously is the most important thing to us. But I mean, look at how it can contribute to pre-production, for example. It saves a lot of time. Yeah. Your storyboarding, you know, it saves a lot of time. So as a production house, your costs go down. Post-production, the way you monetize your content, the way you market your content. So there's far greater implication of the use of AI in business that can actually benefit the industry at large.
And so if that's bringing down cost, I assume in that as well, sort of it's the human element. So you save on the human element. Is that basically just a cost saving that you will bank, or that the production gets cheaper, or you're able to refocus that money elsewhere?
I think you can also, with the same amount of money, have a larger canvas to paint your story or your filmmaking on. You know, for example, virtual production that's happening right now, you know, at a cost which may be lesser than actually shooting on a location, may help a filmmaker, empower a filmmaker to create something spectacular. So it's not only the cost part of it, it's also about how imaginative you can become with your storytelling.
Yeah. And Oscar, is this train is in motion?
Oh, yes.
It's happening, yeah?
Yes, and has been for some time, yeah.
So therefore, is this just about the refuseniks who are trying to slow down that train? Or is it about time they got on board and said, okay, if we're going to work with this, we need to shape how it is used? And I suppose that's partly the issue in the strikes, wasn't it? Of saying we need tougher regulation around it.
I would say that we are trapped in a series of false dichotomies. And it is understandable to analyze things in terms of these false dichotomies, but they are false. I think it's worth understanding that, well, you're absolutely right, for example, that empathy is sort of almost why we're here. Like when you go and see a bit of art, a lot of the time it's because you want to have a connection with the human beings that made the art. Yeah. And when you're talking about freeing up bandwidth, in a way, ultimately, is it giving me more of that? Is it connecting me more to the other person? But at the same time, here's a false dichotomy for you. some of the time, that's not why you go to turn on the TV or go to the cinema. Actually, you just want a predictable emotional experience when you go there. And that has nothing to do with connecting to another human being. Yeah. This is essentially the distinction between McDonald's and Mama's Home Cooking, which is that the organic movement in art is going to emerge in almost exactly the same way as it did as food became more and more bland and prepackaged and predictable. There will be an organic movement in art where the thing everyone is interested in is, yes, but how human is this? I have a friend who built a camera out of wood that he uses to take photographs of the trees that he made the camera from, and it is the highest resolution camera literally in the world. It's digital. And that type of experimenting we're going to see more and more of. I think actually your outfit did a piece on him, if I'm not mistaken. But that dichotomy, the falseness of it, the idea that it's one or the other of those, is key. Because what did McDonald's do? They reduced the human element by making that part as cheap as possible. Yeah. That's what we will do with the type of entertainment where people are just interested in predictable experience.
But I mean, so that's kind of, Avengers 54
Precisely.
Or whatever, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of rinse, repeat.
Right.
But actually, does that create more empathy, more connection with something that is that we believe to be a human experience, a human creation, a human product? Is that something then that we value more than maybe we have in the past?
Absolutely. And as I said, right now, if you look at it, it's the cost is driving everything, ultimately. Reason being, now there's so many platforms, particularly with the OTT and the production's cost having to stay low, and we were hearing about that earlier, that is putting a lot of pressure on the producers to ensure they're getting more for those resources that are spending on production floor. Which means, where is the time for creativity? Where is the time for real pre-production and planning? Now, all of that's going to affect onto the quality of the outcome. Yeah. And what would these tools and these technologies would do is actually not just help you accelerate through that process by taking away some of those really tedious jobs that you do on a daily basis, but also be able to support you in that creative aspect. Like, for instance, AI itself. Not only you're able to, or virtual production for that matter, with the virtual production technology, the artist itself is able to see the environment in real time.
Yeah.
And the directors have the control of these environments to be able to move and make those creative decisions right then and there, and not having to wait for the post-production. Yeah. Just imagine the power of that in terms of the outcome, whether it's from a quality point of view, creative decisioning point of view, or even cost point of view.
Abhayanand, do you worry about the loss of skills in the industry at each stage in that creative process, that as we rely on the tech to do more and more, that some of those traditional skills will die out? And actually, is that a problem, or is this just about retraining?
I mean, it has happened likewise for various other technologies that has come in.
Sure.
But then I think it's also upon us to evolve and to adapt to a new technology, and rather being threatened by it, we rather use it to our own advantage.
Yeah. Is there enough understanding of? I'll come to you. Say, is there enough understanding of that within the industry that that's how it will work?
That's right. I mean, look at editing as a process, right? Before Final Cut Pro happened and various other tools, there was a very different style of editing of movies, right? But the same editors found another tool which helped them cut a movie more to the choice that they wanted to make. Right. And they adapted to it, and they started using that technology. Yeah. So people who know how to use it will remain. Yep. But people who kind of resist any change will unfortunately not find themselves very relevant.
Oscar, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, so I feel like we're sort of slightly in false dichotomy territory again. And it's one we've been hearing quite a lot of today. In fact, I remember you were quite explicit when you said, well, you've got to make the artwork with the commerce, haven't you? And that, of course, that's always been true. So it's reasonable as a sort of fallback position, right? Yep. And the important thing is, are we losing people of certain skills? Are they just going to retrain? Because in the end, the market must sustain. And that may not be a given. For one thing, art forms have come and gone over the years, but that's not the only thing I'm saying. I'm saying that, I don't know, the fact that Sam Altman is developing a UBI project and cold fusion, or trying to, or at least fusion, and the bloke who runs Anthropic is saying, well, those sorts of things are probably not going to be enough, is is worth engaging with on an entirely different level. And just in the sense that this is an entirely different thing. It's very easy, we're all sort of used to it now. Oh, I can have a chat with this thing. Sometimes it says something stupid, I think it's dumb. But, you know, if you try and rewind maybe a year before you ever used it, and you try to remember how shocked you were when you first had a chat with the thing,
Yep.
which I experienced that maybe 3 or 4 years before everybody else when they gave me early access. And it was much weirder back then.
Yeah.
That holding on to that strangeness is key, in my opinion, to anticipating just how strange what happens next might be.
Okay.
And what that might be, for example, is that the idea of there being an artistic industry shifts as rapidly as maybe the idea of industry at all. But that's a much larger question than this panel is designed for.
Yeah, and we only have 5 minutes.
Indeed.
Devi, talk to me about XR. Maybe explain for people what it is, and talk to me about how potentially disruptive, or as a tool for creativity, it could change the way that things are made and consumed, I suppose.
Sure, 5 minutes. I'll try and do this fast.
You got
Yeah,
this.
extended reality is everything that you can think of in terms of immersiveness, augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality. So either you superimpose information into the world that we see today, or you're completely suspended from reality in this immersive world of environments. It's like a parallel world, but completely virtual. Now, coming back to how that's impacting the film and industry is in a huge way. It's already doing it, and that's very critical. Jumping back on the previous conversation, retraining is really, really critical at this stage. Why? Because we are already co-designing with a lot of further education institutions, new courses, because the way how filmmaking, talking about virtual production technology, how that technology even came along is because of game engines, what we're able to achieve in the game technology, have come to a point where it's absolute photorealism is possible through these game engines today, particularly Unreal. Now, with that, we are able to bring locations to studios in a way that you just cannot differentiate the real to the virtual. And just imagine what that's going to do to production cost versus control of creativity. Just enormous. Now, I urge the industry to be open for this change and really take steps now in terms of retraining, whether it's AI or whether it's extended reality. You've probably heard about what's called prompt engineers. Each and every one of us need to be a prompt engineer. So let's really not ignore, it's already here. So please take actions.
And further than that, that as a director, the first time I stepped into one of those virtual studios, and I'm about to try and make something one of them, it's the way that it goes, oh, I can imagine anything now. It doesn't have to be a place that I know that I can go to and film things. Of course, I could do that with a CG budget, but that CG budget has plummeted, right? Yeah. So suddenly, that explosion of possibility is profound.
Yeah, in fact, sorry to just jump in there. It's like, we now hold about 38 some locations, all the global landmarks, right from Oxford Circus all the way to Johannesburg, whatever that may be. But the photorealism, I just can't make out myself.
Yeah. Which is, again, means that we get to have new art forms, art forms that no one has thought of yet.
Yeah.
So let's talk some more about that.
Let's talk more.
And I assume the driver of that is cost, but also sustainability as well in all of this. If you're not having to fly off around the world.
I love that sustainability, net zero targets. Why are we not talking about that?
Yeah, that's for another time. And Abhayanand, give me a sense then, we've talked here about film and TV, gaming, clearly a huge industry, and animation. Animation really struggling, I think it's fair to say at the moment. Why?
I mean, if you look at trends, there comes a time when a certain category of movie does well and everybody starts making similar kind of movies. Right. Like we've seen with what happened with superhero movies.
Yeah.
So animation is at a stage, wherein they've realized that, we need to come with newer stories. We need to create new worlds. And
it strikes me of all the things that AI could change and absolutely facilitate would be animation.
Absolutely. So, but I think still the storytelling that connect with human emotions will still drive it, whereas animators, however, will use AI tools now to get better at what they're already doing.
Right. Have you guys seen the South Park white paper where they generated the entire South Park town and all the characters became AI versions of themselves, interacted and wrote stories, and now they now have an entire Netflix of that.
And it's just a self-sustaining
Lots of different
thing.
shows that are writing themselves, and that you can ask them for the type of episode you want. It was one of the Saatchi kids built this. It's very, very interesting times.
And it neatly gets us back to that strike, isn't it? Because we know that this thing is here. how do traditional, skills and people who have spent a lifetime in this industry, how do they adapt?
I think we need more evangelists. We need more forums like this in order to advocate how important the change is if they want to stay in the game and not be obsolete.
I think that we're going to see a flourishing of an organic movement. We will see a flourishing of stuff that's so cheap that it costs pennies to have a 3-hour movie with your uncle in it. And I think in the middle, just as when Macromedia Flash appeared on the internet, we will have an explosion of individuals making stuff that's mind-blowing to experience, is totally new in certain ways in terms of art form. But and is as strange as, say, salad fingers.
But is it any good?
That's the point, is that most of it will be terrible, and now and again there will be a piece of genius that otherwise could never have been exposed, and that person will either become a product or they'll become organic.
So then, we may see this absolute, kind of bombardment of media.
Yes.
We all get fed up of it because it's all crap.
Not all.
And then actually we'll focus on the good stuff again. So it will be a flight to quality,
You'll
which
go
will
back
be done
to finding
by
someone. Yes.
Probably people and some humans with a lot of empathy and emotions.
Yes.
Yeah. So actually, and therefore proves the point that in all of this, it will be about, is this a good product?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how it's
Absolutely.
made, who's made it, or how much it's cost.
And the
If
audience
it's-
doesn't care anyways.
Yeah.
No.
You know,
Or
what tool
am
have
I
you used to
feeling
make it,
something?
right?
Is there another person on the other side of it? I'm sorry to interrupt, but product. I'm a filmmaker, and product is not the word that I use. I also don't use the word content.
Okay.
I'm like, am I connecting? Is
Am
there
I
an
connecting?
is there an effect I'm having? Am I telling a story and helping people to understand themselves, to cry out something they never even knew they needed to? Like, it's this. Sure, you can wrap it up in a package afterwards, but it's not the productness that makes it functional.
Oh God, I so wish we had more time. There's so much more I want to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Really nice to see
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.